Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for clicking this video. If you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe to this channel. It's been about 2 years of us making videos. We are now about 12,000 subscribers and we celebrate that and we appreciate all of you who have subscribed. So please, if you haven't, join the family, click the notification bell and you'll be notified every day that we make a new video. So recently, maybe a month or two, maybe 3 months ago, the government of Kenya decided to legalize GM crops. And we did make a few videos, like 3 or 4, about GMOs. And the feedback from those videos is that people did not understand what we were talking about. They didn't know what the terms we were talking about meant. They actually could not get what it was we were talking about. And so in this video, I'm going to break down a few terminologies that you will come across, especially if you're Kenyans. Remember, the GMOs are legal. They'll be here in March during the March planting season. At least I know the maize will be rolled out during that time. So as much as there are cases in court, there are people who are trying to stop the GMOs. We wish them all the best and we hope they actually succeed. But the truth is, it's better to be informed. And it's better to stay informed. So we make these videos to inform you and we do not make a decision as to whether you should or should not support GMOs. That's a personal decision. We don't also make a decision for you to whether you should eat or not eat GMOs. But we've broken down the myths and the facts about GMOs. We've told you how to find GMOs, how to avoid or find GMOs in the grocery store, how to not eat GMOs or how to eat whatever. We've done all those videos. You can go and check them out. We will leave links in the description. And if you have a question, you can ask in the comments. We will come back and answer you. This video is a response to the videos we made. So let's go into it and break down these terminologies in the best way we can. And we'll try to make it as layman as possible for you. So the first term obviously is GM, genetic modification, which is a technology. Actually, people have been wondering whether GM will solve all our problems. The truth is, GM crops are not a solution. They are not a growing system. They are not a food system. They are just a technology like any other technology that we've practiced to try and improve our foods. So GMO technology, the technology can be compared to maybe crossbreeding, tissue culture, and so many other technologies that have been done. So GM is not a food system. It's not a growing system. It is a technology that is trying to solve problems in agriculture by modifying the genes. So what happens is that the scientist or the technologist will take a gene from another species, whether it's a bacteria or another plant, and insert it into the gene of the crop they want to modify. And that's how GM crops are made. So I hope now you understand what a GM crop is. It's not a hybrid. It's not a tissue culture. It's not. I actually saw someone else arguing that all seedless fruits are GMs. They are not GMs. It's another whole technology. Also, it's not a GM. It's not necessarily a GM. Probably it could be a GM, but the seedless fruits that I know, the grapes and the oranges, they are not GM. They don't use GM technology. They use another whole different technology. So I hope now we understand what GM technology is. So the next terminology you will come across during when people are talking about GMOs is Roundup Ready crops. So what are Roundup Ready crops? First of all, we do know that about 80% of all GMO crops are owned by Monsanto. Monsanto is a seed production and a insecticide production company, which is a multinational company. It's in so many countries. It was recently bought by Bayer, so now it calls itself Bayer. And so they developed the Roundup Ready crops because they sell Roundup. Roundup is a herbicide. It's not a pesticide, but it's a chemical used to kill weeds or herbs in a farm so that you don't weed, especially in the big commercial farms. So the problem they used to have with Roundup is that you already know that there are so many lawsuits against Roundup. Roundup is carcinogenic, Roundup is this. You already know all about that. But now they realize that whenever farmers sprayed a Roundup, the other crops will die together with the crop they are trying to protect anytime it touch them. So you need to be very selective to just spray the weeds and not touch the crops. So what Monsanto went and did is they developed a seed which when you spray it with Roundup, it doesn't die. That's why it's called Roundup Ready crops. So the risk then is farmers could spray as much Roundup as they can because it doesn't affect whether it's the maize or whatever they are trying to protect, or the soybeans or whatever they are trying to plant. If you grow a Roundup Ready seed and you spray it Roundup, it doesn't die, it's going to survive. So Roundup Ready crops are owned by the owner of Roundup, who is Monsanto, and recently known as Bayer. So the next terminology you will come across when interacting with GM crops and GM technology are the BT crops. Like I do know the maize that has been approved in Kenya is BT maize. So what is a BT crop? There's BT cotton, there's BT maize, and probably BT other crops, but these two are the most common. So BT in itself means Bacillus thuringiensis. I hope I didn't butcher the scientific name of that bacteria. So the BT is a bacteria. It's a soil bacteria that when inserted in the crop, whether it's the cotton or the maize, when the insects eat them. Actually, I think it was initially developed to control bollworms. If the bollworm eats a BT crop, it dies, but the crop doesn't die. So this was developed to help deal with the insects. It's an insecticide. So these are also called, the BT crops can also be called insecticide crops, meaning the crops produce an insecticide from within themselves. That means you don't have to spray anything on those crops to control the insects. So the argument then becomes, if the technology, if the BT is poisonous, if this bacteria is poisonous to the insects, is it poisonous to humans? Okay, research says it's not, but you see there are arguments pro and against, so it's up to you to go and find out what your exact stand is. I cannot give it in this video, like exhaust it in this video, but that's what BT crops mean. They are insecticide ready crops. They have been ingested with a Bacillus thuringiensis bacteria, which is a soil bacteria, which when insects eat, they die. I hope I also broke that down very, very well, so that you know what you're trying to do is to stop the spraying, to reduce the spraying, because these crops are not attacked by insects, because when insects attack them, they die. The crops have insecticide from within. So I hope you get what a BT crop is. Then the next term you are going to get is a terminator gene. You're going to come across terminator genes while you're interacting with GMOs. So what is a terminator gene? So terminator genes also were developed by the owners of the GM crops to restrict its distribution or its post-production. I don't know what to say, but what it means in layman's terms is that these crops commit suicide after the first produce. Like you can't plant those seeds, they terminate themselves after the first produce. So if you harvest crops with the terminator genes, you can't plant those seeds because they are sterile. They are sterilized seeds, so they die, like they become unproductive, like they are sterile. After the first harvest, if you plant a maize seed with a terminator gene, you can't plant it in the next season because it's sterile. It's not going to germinate and it's not going to grow anything. So I hope that also explains what a terminator gene is. Now the issue with terminator gene, or the argument was then, if this terminator gene cross-pollinates my crop, which is not supposed to be terminated, does it also terminate mine? There are no exhaustive answers about that, because now in Kenya we have smallholder farms. We cannot protect the farms from cross-pollination. So we run a risk of these terminator gene crops, the crops with terminator genes, cross-pollinating ours. I don't know exactly what happens, but I do know that those seeds commit suicide. They are sterile. They do not reproduce. Okay, so I hope you understand now what terminator gene is, or you have a clue. If you don't, you can always ask in the comments. I'll try to break it down best way I can. So the other terminology you're going to come across is buffer zones. What are buffer zones? So in the place where they grow, GM crops, like in large farms, they always leave some space or some land at the edge or around the crops around the farm to make sure that there's no cross-pollination with the small older farms or with the other gardeners. So it's like they want to withhold, they don't want to cross-pollinate their seeds with seeds from other farms, which is also another problem we have in Kenya. Do we have the space to create buffer zones so that our crops do not, those of us who are GMO averse, do we have the space to protect our crops from GMO cross-pollinations? Or a better question to ask is, are those people growing GMOs have the right space to create a buffer zone to protect us who do not want to grow GMOs from cross-pollination? That question, I don't have enough answers for it. I probably don't have any answer for it, but that is a terminology we'll come across, a buffer zone. Yes. So the last terminology we're going to talk about today is what is a patented seed. That's also another word you will hear just around the discussion on GMOs. So a patent is the right to own something. So a patented seed is owned and controlled by the maker. I think that breaks it down. Like the owner of the patent has all the rights for whether use, distribution, resale, reproducing that seed, recreating. You cannot do anything with it without the permission of the owner of the patent. So now the question is, we risk having our food controlled by big multinationals who own these patented seeds, because they argue GMOs take a lot of money, and they take a lot of money, resources, and time to create, and so they need to own them solely so that they can try and recoup their money. I think that's the argument. But the idea is basically to control you from using their seeds without their permission, or from reselling their seeds without their permission. So what then that means is that we have to pay royalties to them as long as we grow these seeds. Yeah, so those are the arguments and cross-arguments against and for patented seeds. I hope you've learned something. I hope you've learned a new word. I hope you'll not be as blown as you have been when it comes to GM technologies and GM crops. I am so grateful that you came with me this far, and the fact that you've watched this far means probably you are learning something. So please, I request you to subscribe to this channel. That really supports us and also encourages us to keep us making more of these videos to educate you and to educate the world on all these matters about garden, home, and lifestyle. So thank you so much for watching this video. Always remember, if you have a vision, add some passion, and I'll see you in the next one.